Thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking about Jamf School, and I have Kirsten, Mark, Aranau, and Amanda up here presenting. So I think Kirsten's going to lead us off. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's loud. So thank you for joining us at our product session. This will be a product session where we actually like to show you a little bit more. These are the three people from Jamf School, but we also have one of our customers from the US with us. I actually like to know what kind of, just curiosity, do we have IT admin here? How many people are that? And teachers, maybe? Teachers/IT? All right. Figured it out. School leaders also? Okay, so you actually really want to see my colleagues because they're really going to talk about the technical stuff. If you have questions at the end, you can just go to one of us, but you can also send a message to info@jamfschool.com, maybe even tomorrow when you have a question, right? I just wanted to point it out. The team is actually also here, and I'm going to do something really terrible for one person. We have here the team of the Netherlands as well with us. Joey, you're here. Can you stand up a little bit? That's our support guy. Actually went to the US. Marco here, development as well. Yep. And then Matthias, you hate it terribly. This is the guy that actually started the whole development on our MDM. So he was part of the Dutch school that it was founded in, and he's still with us. Thank God. Really happy with you. So, also a special thanks to Amanda Kuhns that will also join us in a minute. She's from Millard Public Schools in Omaha, and they have ZuluDesk since 2018. And there are about 14,000 devices, something like that right now, macOS, tvOS, iPadOS. So I think that will be nice for you also to see that. So this is our agenda, very quick. I will talk a little bit about the vision, because then you can see the highlights of this year of the development and the roadmap for the next coming months. And Amanda will say about Millard, and we have a real Q&A. So, starting about the vision, we actually thought when we started it up at the school, we see that books are kind of disappearing, or it seems to be that we are going to get that IT, we're going to get better on that as well. And you want the teachers also to have tools that help them to have that. Well, actually, they're still having the power in the classroom, right? So fewer distraction, better learning, that was the idea for us. We wanted to have that management of devices inside the school, but also outside, so that's why we work with the parents. And it needed to be powerful and easy and affordable, like I said also this morning. And you probably already all know the SAMR model because that's kind of what Apple is always telling us. Lots of schools actually are at that part that we substitute our books. But where we actually want to go is that we have a redefinition of our way that we teach and we work, and that we actually help our students into the next generations, right? And I think you guys here, girls as well, you are the ones that actually have the power to help schools to get there, because you know what is state of the art right now. You know exactly what is out there, and you also will know what is out there because that's you, right? You want to know that. So for that, I think what I would like to at least share with you is it would be so nice that we can just help our schools and our students of the future to have that possibilities to do even more than we can actually right now think of. And I would like to, with our people, with all of us, let's make learning state of the art as well. And I hope I have you there as well. But okay, I'll stop now very quickly because it's time for our product. Mark? Oh, almost, sorry. I forgot that. Our development, just stay with. We have a part of the if we talk about the strategy, we wanted to make sure it's always Apple first, right? Because we have the Apple possibilities, and Apple actually adds to what is possible in the classroom. It needs to be simple, and of course, the actors in learning that I already told about this morning, right? So we do it for schools, we do it for you. That is actually the thing that I wanted to tell you. So Mark, would you show them something about what we actually did, highlights for this year?
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. So hi everyone, my name is Mark de Jonge. I'm currently the engineering manager, so I'm leading the development team. A little bit of history, we already introduced Matthias as the first developer. He was actually a sysadmin at a school where they first developed this in his spare time because, well, they thought the existing NDMs weren't good enough, basically, for teachers. So actually in the first demo, we already had a working teacher app because that was the first thing we thought of that school. That's what we need in an MDM, something that works for the teachers. So I'm going to talk a bit about the highlights of this year. We just got the vision about simplicity, the actors, teachers, students. Apple has a bit of history with us. Actually, when I was hired 4.5 years ago, we started off by a project like, we're going to do the same thing Apple does, but then for Android. That took us about a month before giving that up and saying, no, we're doing Apple. Apple is the only platform that is capable of giving the options to the teachers of doing app lock, saying we're only doing, the students is locked in that app and that's the only one. Something that's just not possible to get in Android in any way. So that was actually my start, and after a month we just said, no, we're focusing on Apple. And we've been continuing that this year. So this year we had two big releases from Apple. The spring release with iOS 12.2, macOS 10.14.4, and tvOS 12.2. There's a lot of things that were added that year. We support from day zero all of the features. For schools, the big thing was, of course, Classroom for Mac. So on macOS, the Classroom app now also works. By the way, they also added unmanaged classes. So there's an option now in Classroom to add for the teacher to select their own class. We'll come back to that one later, remember it. For the fall release, there's a lot of new restrictions actually, but two big features that are interesting. User enrollment, that means a user device can be enrolled into the system with less restrictions. Please remember, if you use it, the device is non-supervised, so a lot of teacher features won't work with that. But it gives you the possibility to enroll a user-defined device with, for example, email in a closed-down environment. The one I'm wanting to show you is the customized enrollment authentication. So what we added in ZuluDesk this year, these are the settings in the backend for the ZMS. So for the IT admins, this is where you're living in our MDM. In the authentication part, in the settings, we already had support for LDAP and local authentication. This year we added single sign-on possibilities for Microsoft Azure and Google. So if you select Azure credentials, you can, wow. That's not looking good. Okay. Well, we're going to watch it again. So we can select the authentication. When you go to the DEP profiles, in the end, you can select which type of that you want to use, the selected authentication method during enrollment. It's doing it again. No idea why. So during the DEP, setup of the DEP profile, we can skip stuff, and you can also even add user agreements. So during enrollment, you can show the user what they agree to do. So here I just select the JNUC demo that I've prepared. It's a default user agreement. And when you go through enrollment, of course we support all the skip keys and everything, but now there's a piece, instead of that ugly pop-up you got in the past, where you just had a username password option, we got a web view and we can actually integrate with Azure. So during enrollment, you can use a single sign-on for your students. And then the normal enrollment continues during the end. So this is part of what probably most of you have seen a lot of times already. But during the single sign-on, we already assign the user. So profiles get pushed, apps get pushed, new wallpaper is set, etc. Let's continue now for the student, because we have a whole bunch of roles for which we have tools. So let's start with the student. This is our new redesigned self-service app. We redesigned it this year to be more user-friendly so that students can understand what they can use. For example, under the My Resources tab, there's a whole bunch of apps, documents, profiles that can be installed by the student themselves. So they can select which apps they want to use. Also, there are a lot of options that we kind of hidden. Authorized parent, I think we all saw it in the presentation this morning. Joining class, we'll get back to that next. And there's a lot of student settings. But we added something because the amount of apps that you can install can become overwhelming. Well, we can create a device group where apps are scoped to that device group. And there's actually a new setting to show it in the self-service app. And this setting, you can say, well, I want to have a collection of these apps that are selected and show them separately in the app. So what we just selected, if we refresh it in the app, we got a new tile, which we say, this is the English material that you have. You don't see, maybe you have 50 apps that you could install as a student, but I just want to see the ones for English. So you can create your own groups within the app, define how you want to show it, and combine it even with documents. I think there's a good story down there somewhere. So this is for the student, what we did this year, adding collections. Now up to the teacher. The Classroom app, of course, got a big update this year, also for Mac. So these are actually managed classes, and something that Apple has added is unmanaged classes. Unfortunately, we cannot use unmanaged classes with the managed classes at the same time. So that's kind of a bummer, right? We want to use it. We want to empower our teachers to use it in their own way. So in our own teacher app, we can actually add this. So when you go to the teacher app, go to your classes, you see the same managed classes that we have in Classroom, but there's also a button to create a new class. So let's create a new class here. And we can add students to an ad hoc class. Doing this in the Classroom, the teacher app actually functions as an iBeacon. So on the student app, you get a notification, do you want to join this class? The student just clicks on the notification, says, yes, I want to join. And when you go over to the teacher app, they can see which students have accepted and can save the class. But there's more, because this is not just for the teacher app. This is saved in our backend, sent through the education profile, and actually in the Classroom app, you also get that ad hoc class back, including everything you need in the Classroom app. I think this is one of the bigger features we added this year for the teachers. What we also did for the parents this year, I don't have the time to go into too much detail. The parent app, we worked both on working with Jamf Pro, but also we created a web version, a redone web version of the parent app. But I want to show you for all the IT admins around here, because there's a lot of stuff to be done for macOS. One of the things I'd like to demo real quickly is scripting. This year we added the possibility to create your own custom scripts in in Jamf School. Sorry, still getting used to the name. It was only yesterday, right? No. Scripting is, by the way, is a module in the system. So by default it's off because a lot of smaller schools don't want to bother with complicated stuff like scripting. If you want it, just go to your setting. It's a free module, the same as everything else. You can just install this and then create your own script. So if you create your own script, there's, of course, the type. You have to put in some name. We support both Bash and Apple script, whatever you like best. In this case, I'm going to select Apple script. Also, you can select when you want to run it. So we have scheduled runs, user login, user logout, or just once. I'm doing just once for now. That's the easier for the demonstration. I don't know who's fluent in Apple script. You can probably prepare a bit about what's happening. So we're going to add the device group. This is scoping. So we already prepared MacBooks, all MacBooks smart group. And when
Hello,
you save
JNUC.
it actually works. So I enrolled the same MacBook I was working on while recording it. By the way, this isn't cut at all. Just during the save and the run, it's about a second. It's that quick. And of course, you can see the result of the script execution, what the result is. And if you create a complicated script that does installation and whatever, you'll see the whole result down here. This is all things that have been released this year, and for people in Jamf School, we can already play around with. There's a couple of announcements I'd like to make, stuff that's coming out soon. First, macOS packages. We already support uploading your own macOS packages. We're moving to S3 storage. That means faster downloads, but more importantly, bigger uploads. Because right now we're limited to 2 gigabytes for a package size, which is too small. Unfortunately, I think Adobe is like 27 gigabyte. When moving to S3, we can increase the upload to 5 terabyte. So we're not running into that limit soon, at least. Second, we're also adding single sign-on and two-factor authentication for admins. So we're redoing our whole authentication platform. So that'll also come out soon. I get 2 other demos, quick demos to show. This is, again, the self-service app for the student. People working with ZuluDesk already know that a teacher in a lesson can define a weblog. So you can select a couple of websites and say, I want to log the students in these websites. Well, what if you want to share those links without locking them in the websites? They're just part of the lesson. So the piece we added for the self-service, you can see which lesson is now active for the student. This class, in this case, they're in math. And it's still 8:40 left in that tile. So the lesson still is 8.5 minutes. And you've got a couple of links you can open. Now these links are just generic links. They can be internet links. They can be a link to a Dropbox file or PDF file on your Google Drive, whatever. When you click the open button, of course, it goes to Safari or whatever app handles that link. So it's a more generic addition to the teacher and student app. That's coming soon. I got one more thing which already has been shown this morning a little bit. I'm going to go into a bit more detail. That's the app request from the App Store. Now this morning we already had a small demo. I'm also going to show you a little bit about the backend. For example, here I'm going to Duolingo. And what we did, instead of redoing the whole App Store, we want to use the share button to share it with the teacher app. So when you open the teacher app, you can select the class to which you want to request those. In this case, all students in this class. And I'm going to submit an app request with some request for some reason for request. And then the app request is sent off. Now, if you go to the backend, you can see the request in there, and we can approve it only if you have enough licenses acquired already. But there's more, because we can automatically create the scope that a teacher has selected for that app. So when you go back, there's actually a device group selected, which already scopes this class for the app. So you don't have to look up which class has to be scoped, stuff like that. It's automatically done for you. And when you go back to your teacher app, you can see the request, see it's approved, and you know the children have access to it. So these are some of the things that we've been doing this year. thanks to the great engineers we got over here and back in the Netherlands still. And right now, I'd like to give over the mic to Arnoud, because he's going to talk a bit about the roadmap and the future for Jamf School.
Thanks, Mark. So, my name is Arnoud van Beek. Officially Van Beek, that's the Dutch way to say it, but you know, in the English-speaking countries, it's easy to say Van Beek. I'm the product manager of Jamf School, just started out here. And I want to talk to you about our roadmap. What are we going to do in the next year? I would like to tell you everything about everything what we're doing, but that's going to take too much time. So what I'm going to do is just highlight a couple of features which are related to our actors in learning, what we've talked about already. So what are these people? You people, the IT admins, but of course, the teachers, the students, the parents, the school leaders, and of course, Apple. We talked about what happened in 2019. How am I going to talk about what's going to happen in 2020? We don't know what Apple is going to do in 2020. We might have an educational session somewhere in the spring. We probably will get a new macOS and a new iOS release in the fall. But what we do know is, like with all Jamf products, will we be certain that we'll be supporting everything awesome Apple does in the next year, 0 day. So when Apple releases it, we will support it. What about you IT admins? We've already seen something with Azure, and to be honest, it did have some effect with a video. We can use Azure to authenticate people. We do that already. You can even connect Azure with your Apple School Manager to import users from managed Apple IDs. However, wouldn't it be great if there was a way to do this automatically? So you got your Azure, you got your users there, you got your Apple School Manager. Wouldn't it be better to have some kind of tool, like an MDM, like Jamf School, that'll help you out automatically? So it'll import the users right from Azure, put them all the way back into Apple School Manager with all the managed Apple IDs in place. We're going to do that. What else are we going to do? We're going to make it possible to be able to push apps and settings based on the local area network of the device. So not just the geo placement or which WAN IP it has, but also which local IP it has. Next, for the teachers, I heard there weren't not many teachers here. None? All right. There are still some situations that the classical way of sharing iPads is being used at schools. You know, you got a class set, about 20 or 30 iPads, use it for one class, roll them over to another class. You have to set up already again. The problem is that it's a cumbersome task. You do that on each device. It takes too much time. So what we're going to do is make it easy for the teachers just to do it from one spot, right from the teacher app. And what we're also going to do in the teacher app is make it simple to request first-level support from you IT admin folks. Well, wouldn't it be great for them if there is an Apple TV not working right, or you don't know exactly what you have to do within the teacher app, but the IT admin can help you out? That we just place some kind of big red help button right on the teacher app that sets up some kind of chat session with the IT? That would help them greatly. So that's what we're going to do as well. And if the IT admin cannot solve the problem, we can generate that into a ticket within Jamf School. For the parents, we got something as well. Don't know how many of you know the parent app already, but did you know the situation that the student has an iPad, has his passcode on the iPad, goes home with it, his little brother steals the iPad, knows the password, changes the password for fun, instantly forgets what he typed as a password? So what are you going to do then when you're at home? You can't do anything about that now. We're going to build it into the parent app, that it's possible for the parent to clear the passcode. I understand this could be a security thing at schools, so we're not going to make this default or anything. It's up to the schools to be able to enable the power for the parents. But also the school leaders. It might be wise, I don't know how many of you, how many Jamf School users are there here? None yet. Oh, one, okay. Buying licenses at the moment is an IT admin thing. It might be a good idea to make sure that the right people, like the school leaders or the IT administrators of districts, but not just the local IT person, is able to manage and even acquire licenses. So we're going to build an app especially for these people. Make it easy to manage and acquire the licenses. And last but not least, customizable dashboard. If you see the dashboard now, it's some kind of default template of some information that you can use. But for our school leaders, it might be wise to know which teachers use which apps. And if they use a teacher app, which features of the teacher apps do they use? Can we help to get this information out there so that these teachers can be better trained in using these tools to make education even better? And talking about school leaders, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda. All right.
I'm talking. Oh, there I am. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Amanda Coons. I work for Millard Public Schools in Omaha, Nebraska. And before I start, my job today is to tell you my story on how we utilize Jamf School in our district. But first, let me tell you what I do and who I am. So I am a technology facilitator too in my district. My job pretty much scopes out to quite broad. So not only am I a Mac admin, if I say that in my district, people don't know what that is. But I'm responsible for setting up all the user configurations, deploying all the packages, procuring the hardware, the whole lifecycle management. I'll actually get pulled into a lot of training sessions, anything that's a little more technical than what our instructional staff is comfortable doing. And everything, and actually I also facilitate the help desk too. So just a broad range of responsibilities, and in our district, we are half Windows and half Mac in our district. So we have about 15,000 Apple TVs, iOS devices, and Macs in our district. So elementary is where our Macs reside, and secondary is where our Windows reside. And we have some crossover in those situations, like journalism and stuff. So my team is 5 people, and I'm one of those 5 people. So the restrictions on my time and what I'm able to do is limited, as most of you guys probably feel like, with advances, with changes, with Apple, and the requirements of our district. Our time is limited when we walk into something. So that said, in our district, there was a natural competition between doing, I'm cutting in and out. Not good. Oh, just keep talking. Okay, so there's a natural competition between our Windows environment and our Mac environment. So fortunately, the two of us get along, the two leaders of those two sections, but we were in competition with our board and our district cabinet to make sure that we were making good. You're going to give me the microphone. Okay. We learned yesterday I'm not good at microphones. Hello. Keep talking? Okay. So, when environment, we were set to compete. We compete with each other. And we were competing for things like what our budgets were, what our processes were, and ultimately our user experience. So, Wasn't that you? Oh, aren't they recording this? Yes. There you go. Okay, so when we were put into this competition, it put a lot of pressure on us. And during that time, we found out our MDM was going end of life. And even better, I was in a new teacher training, and one of our instructional people were up there, and they were training the new teachers on our MDM at the time that was going end of life. And the way they described it to the new teachers, they said it was ugly. So they said, yeah, this is our MDM, it's sort of ugly, and then they just went into just like what the MDM does. And you know, as the person that was responsible for picking that solution back in the day when MDMs were brand new, it was a really hard message to hear that our MDM was ugly. And when I walked away from that, I synthesized what that person was saying. I mean, I could have been really upset, and maybe I was, but I really walked away realizing that it was something that we did to them. So again, Mac admin in a school district, we put in an MDM, and their perspective on the instructional side was it was something that we did to them, not with them. So we really had to bridge the gap between us and them for IT, right? And one of the ways that we could do that was we could bring in a unified solution when we replaced our MDM. We could bring in something that worked well for the both of us. So then I'm challenged to go through our MDM vendors, and I'm not going to name any names, but I've looked at a lot of MDM vendors over the years. I always try to keep an idea of what was going on with the market. And I realized I found three main strands with MDMs. One, you had a strand where you had the single pane of glass people. Those are the ones that would probably offer things like wireless and MDM in one package. Vendors that tried to do Windows, Mac, and Android devices, those were fun. Those are really heavyweight packages. Then we had our on-prem solutions, right? Our really heavy, beastly, take the server down every time you have an upgrade solutions, very time-consuming. And the last one that I looked at, let me see. Oh, yes, open source. Again, won't say the name, but I don't have that much time. A great solution, I'm sure, but I don't have that much time to facilitate some of that. So let me roll my notes here, and of course they're wrong, and they won't go. So what I instead went to was I wanted something that was a bit of a risk. I wanted somebody that worked outside of that realm, and that would really kind of bridge the gap between what we were doing in education and what we needed for management. And when I looked at all the MDM vendors, I found, you know, one of these things is not like the other, and it was Jamf School, like the Sesame Street reference. There you go, you're elementary. Okay, so with that, let me go to my notes here. All right, so fortunately, I had the credibility in my district to try something a little different. Of course, my boss found out after, way later, that we were one of their largest deployments. He didn't know that in the front. But what we were looking for was something that was user-focused. And when I say user-focused, I'm not picking out any specific user. I looked at everybody, I looked at the district holistically, and I wanted to find a solution that people would embrace and they would use, and it would help them on the day-to-day. I didn't care if it made my job harder. That wasn't what my end goal was. My end goal was to make it easier and made sure it was really strategically aligned with what our district was doing. Another thing that we were looking for, there it goes again. Another thing that we were looking for was a fast-paced development cycle. So our old solution supported Windows, Mac, and Android, and we found just because we had 0-day support, that actually doesn't mean anything to me anymore, 0-day support, maybe because I've always had vendors that have done that. But I'm looking for companies that go beyond 0-day. I'm looking for companies that are feature-rich, and feature-rich in my industry. Right? So for me, that was education. And for me, that was Jamf School. Here we go. The next one would be the price point. Jamf School, before I could go all in with our one-to-one and our MDM purchase, we had to work some budget magic. And it was really fortunate that Jamf School, if you haven't talked to anybody about pricing, you really should. This is a perpetual license. I don't have to just like have that Groundhog Day where every year we do the license renewal and look at our annual licenses and rebuy again. I don't want to go into that time suck. So I really want to save my time and just utilize things like perpetual licensing and to really make my life easier. And finally, it was the last one on my list was Max Simplicity. To prepare for this presentation, I went to my analysis for the different MDM vendors that I looked at. And through the list, over and over again, ease of use showed up down the line for my ZuluDesk and my Jamf School review. So just to me, all I need is scripts, profiles, and packages, and I can do the rest. What I really needed from my users were all those feature-rich things that they were able to facilitate. Yeah, there we are. So some of those things for my users, one of the wins that we have coming out of this is last week I had the opportunity to train my resource and my SPED teachers on Jamf School and Apple Classroom. So even though we've been doing this for over a year, I don't always get professional development time with the different groups. So this was my opportunity with that group. And I don't know if you guys have ever spent any time with that group, but it's really hard to make, them smile, or happy with any technology solution, or pretty much any solution in general. So I had them personally for an hour, and I taught them these two Apple Classroom and ZuluDesk teacher. And by the time they were leaving the room, and some of these are the SBS teachers, the behavioral teachers, they were in there as well. They were so excited that they would have a solution that would give them full transparency from the teacher to the student, that they would be able to draw attention to the kids, that they would be able to like encapsulate the kids into a lesson. I have a hard time saying the word lock sometimes. Because they're just trying to guide these students in their lessons, and they're trying to do it gently with the groups that they work with. These teachers were so excited when they walked out of the meeting room. I mean, I got, oh my God, thank yous. I had a line of people asking me questions afterwards. I've had follow-up since. And I will say, this is my first time at Jamf School, or Jamf Conference, obviously, because I wasn't a customer before. But when I leave this conference, again, I'm a Mac admin. The number one thing I'm going to leave this conference, it's not going back and saying, hey, I learned how to configure that new profile, or hey, I learned how to like repackage whatever. It's going to be, hey, by the way, Jamf School just added ad hoc, so I can have a teacher, my resource teachers that meet with kids in small groups. I can have them repackage those kids into a small group and then pass that out to Apple Classroom as an ad hoc group. The thing that I've been asking Apple to do for over 2 years, since, well, 2 years, whatever, I lose my time, 9.2, whenever they released it. I've been asking for that hybrid for years, but Jamf School got it off the bat. So those are the kind of responses that I get from them. That, for me, was worth the MDM migration. Moving from one MDM to another, it was totally worth it, and I would absolutely do it again. For me, for this vendor, another win on this is that I've got a great support team behind. So it's been interesting meeting with these guys this week and talking with them one-on-one. It's funny because I'll talk to them and they're like, oh, that's on this roadmap, or we can improve that better. So you're talking to developers that actually have the education background. I did meet with an MDM vendor one time. I was walking through my office and they caught me, and I won't say their name. But they were so excited because they were already in our district for other services, and boy, if they could sell us MDM, they were so excited. So they started talking to us about, or started talking to me about their services and everything, and they said, well, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, how do you work with Apple Classroom? And they said, what is that? So I explained it to them, right? Do you know the company? Right. And they said, we'll get that for you in a month. And I thought, you know, it's going to take more than a month to understand education and to try to develop for it. But these guys developed it from the ground up. And it's funny, I didn't even know the story about how the company started until 2 nights ago. I could tell when I was working with the vendor that that's what it looked like. So to give you kind of an idea where we are in our district currently, I'm kind of competitive, and I'm totally winning. So the Windows side has zero transparency on what's going on with their end users, right? Has anybody tried to do any research on any kind of like classroom, the lesson section like that we have in Jamf School and what we now have in Jamf? That doesn't exist. Or if it exists, it looks like it was coded back in the early 90s. It's hideous. So not only do we have wireless projection, which is kind of outside of Jamf School, but we also have the functionality that we got with Jamf School with facilitating the lessons. And I want to say one more thing about those lesson pieces. So when I met with these SPED and resource teachers, they got really excited that Jamf School would extend outside of Bluetooth, that it would push those lessons out to the student at their home. So why do I care? Because I'm also dealing with the departments who have the students that are too sick to come to school. So they're at home getting the treatments, and they're trying to get ways for those kids to still interact and participate in the classroom. And that is done when those teachers can still manage those devices when they're at school and they affect those kids at home. So that was one way. Another way is with all the wonderful bad weather we've had lately, we're now doing e-learning days where the kids go home. They don't come in on the snow days. So our Jamf School teachers can still facilitate class and encapsulate those kids and guide those kids even when they're at home. So we're really excited about our partnership with Jamf School and looking forward kind of to where we go from there. Okay, so we're gonna start the Q&A. We have like four minutes, yeah? Sorry. So I'm gonna ask the first question. So you guys are gonna think about that. You're gonna think about your questions for them. So I'm gonna put Mark on the hot spot. Because I know I've been writing lists. Actually, when he sat down, I told him I added to my list. So I have a question. So when you do the app requests from a teacher to the admin, can you scope more than one class?
Not right now.
Because if I departmentalize or if I team teach, like I would actually want to hit each classroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, got a mic. Mine works. No, but not in the first version. So ideas like this, the app request, we're going to release the first version. Ideas like this really help us to get how to improve these features in the future. We've been adding to a lot of features over the years, but right now it's one class at the time.
Okay, but you get it right, departmentalized. Like
Yeah,
you've got to hit, like
get it.
you might hit all those math classes. You might as well just request them. Otherwise, that triples or quadruples your requests.
Yeah,
Yep.
get it.
All right. Question.
Yes,
Is he on?
it's on, it's just no battery. No lights or anything, it's on though. Our current workflow with Jamf Pro, which we're looking at maybe going to Jamf School instead because it seems to be more tailored for schools, is we buy our app in Apple School Manager, it pushes it down to Jamf Pro, and then we can scope it. You talked about buying the apps, it seemed like in Jamf School. Is that, the way the guy talked about was you could buy the apps in Jamf School or?
No.
still-
Buying the apps is exactly the same as Jamf Pro. We have to buy it through Apple. We do make the sync up as easy as possible, that you sync the VPP, and you can get the overview with the apps and then scope them to whatever group you want.
And the teacher can't scope them to multiple groups, but can the admin in the back
Yeah,
end
of course.
scope them to
So
multiple groups?
we also support things like smart groups. You can create your own smart groups. You can scope multiple groups to an app. Yeah, we can do all that.
So when we get the request to come in, we could just scope it in the back end then,
Yeah.
the way we needed to do it then.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, the setup for, they went through the setup this morning, and the setup was as fast and as easy as that. Matter of fact, I don't really remember my setup. It went that fast. I remember my setup for my first MDM back in the day because of how painful it was, but it was extremely easy.
Jamf Pro was very painful on setup.
Professional hours included, right? Who else? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Well, somebody's going to have to hit a mic.
Do you guys support personal device enrollment?
Of course. Yeah. The DEP, you mean? The Device Enrollment Program?
For personal devices. Currently, it's called user enrollment in Jamf Pro.
Yeah, user enrollment is supported.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's full functionality for what Apple allows you?
For what it will allow you to do, it is very limited if you do user enrollment because the device isn't supervised, so there's a lot of restrictions you cannot apply, especially since iOS 13, that when Apple changed a lot of the restrictions to be supervised only. So that combination, I don't think it's too useful for many schools. For higher ed, it might be useful for setting up things like email and stuff like that on a user enrolled device. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. Are there any plans to integrate ERP systems with Jamf School? Something called maybe like Data Tower Colleague, basically pull in the rosters and put that into your system?
So right now we do most of the syncing through Apple School Manager.
Right.
So if you get it in Apple School Manager, we'll sync it through there. We also support LDAP as was shown. Right now, I don't know the specific ERP, so probably not.
Okay.
We are not want to do a lot of different integrations. There's a lot of systems out there that we could integrate with. We have put in place both an API and things like CSV imports if you need to. So there are other ways to get the data in.
Okay, great, thank you.
And yeah.
One quick question and one long question.
Sure.
So the quick question, back with the teacher request of apps. Right now in Jamf Pro, that app request comes from self-service.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying in Jamf School, it comes through the App Store?
Yeah, so actually
And
what,
self-service or just through the App Store?
for now, just through the App Store. So in the App Store, you can look up the app, and then if you hit the share button, share with the teacher app, you start the app request workflow.
Does that require an Apple ID to be signed in then?
No.
It doesn't, okay.
You only have to be able to browse the App Store, that's it.
Okay, so then my next question is, do you do app analytics? Can you tell me of the apps that are installed on iPads, how often they're used? So that we can, at the end of the year, start weeding out apps? So like during
I
the
don't know.
year.
How do you do that, Amanda? Because we don't have...
It was actually one of the things that we had to discuss.
Oh, really?
So it's because some of the.
So that's a feature request.
Yes.
Okay, good feature request.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll post
So-
that off to Enout.
So if I transition by this summer, this next summer, that'll be in place. That would be awesome.
Do you know if there's any plans to bring the parent app to Android or non-mobile devices?
No, right now, not right now. We have the iOS version and the web version, and the web version is mobile, is developed for mobile.
There is a web version, though?
There is a web version for the web app that only works for Jamf School, by the way, right now.
All right, thank you.
And so, you know, I regularly manage my entire network or for my entire inventory right from my own cell phone. So that's also pretty cool, too.
So I think I heard you mention earlier that you support 14, or you have, what's your scaling look like? How big are the deployments that you have inside of Jamf School?
We have a whole range of deployments. Like Amanda is one of our biggest deployments with about 14,000 devices in a single environment.
1.4?
14, yeah.
Okay, 1.
Yeah, it's zero performance issues. I actually had the engineer from my previous company moved to a different company, and they had hoped that I was going to go there.
Sure.
And they were like, oh, you're going to have all these performance issues, and the scare, whatever, never happened.
Okay.
Never happened. And it's pretty darn quick. Like when you're running the scripts, it is literally like what you showed, so
And
don't
that's
mess up your scripts.
14,000 is the biggest that you have right now, or what's?
Well, actually, I'm at,
We have like a country like Luxembourg, they have over 17,000 and they're going to scale up to 75,000.
And that's in a single
Single
managed
environment.
instance.
Or, yeah. So there are multiple locations, but it's yeah, big district. Actually country. Small country. Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, we do not currently we use Apple School Manager obviously for apps and book purchases, but for us, using managed Apple IDs is really useless because you cannot release them when the child becomes 13. So, and it doesn't sound like you integrate with like a product like Blackbaud, so we could upload our classes and things through that. So would we have to use CSVs to upload? Would we have to use School Manager?
there are several options. If you don't want to use Apple School Manager, then you can do CSV upload, or you can do or use the API.
So
What?
could I just upload student information straight to Jamf School?
Yeah, of course. We have just local storage in there.
And technically, I do half of mine doing an upload and the other half using a different method. I
Okay.
pulled half of mine from LDAP and the other half of mine from an upload.
So being that we use Jamf Pro now, is there a migration tool from Pro to School?
You know, that I regularly ask Apple that question as well, because most of that falls on them with how Apple handles DEP.
Right.
And whatever they've renamed it to this week, and then BPP. So
Right.
it really falls on them, and I've had some fierce conversations with them, because they really, they have made it difficult.
They have, yeah. I
So
don't-
you,
So right,
looking for the value added.
yeah, right now it's impossible without re-enrolling. That's basically the answer. We could talk about how to pull the data over,
Yeah.
but without re-enrollment, it just won't happen right
Like
now.
what about all of our profiles and all the configurations for all the different grade
Okay.
levels and?
We can talk about that.
Right.
We don't have one tool right now that can do that, but it's definitely something we've been looking into.
Okay. So I guess my question is, obviously, other than the price difference, what are my limitations with School versus what I have now with Pro?
I think you should ask a Jamf Pro guy that. No, it?
They told me to come to the school
Yeah, I know.
presentation. I've learned all about it.
I'll give you a real answer. No, Jamf School has full support for virtually any. We have 100% support for all iOS, tvOS. That's really 100%, I'm sure. macOS, we're about at 90%. So there are a couple of very specific things in macOS that we are missing. We are currently working on that on the roadmap to get to 100% as soon as possible.
Okay, so if we have like roughly 300 Macs right now.
Can't do policies, they told me today.
Yeah.
No policies.
I think, Amanda, because you're using quite a lot of macOS, right?
Oh.
Yeah, no policy. No,
Yeah,
I have.
I
Oh,
was
no.
told down at the Jamf downstairs that they said that you can't do policies, but you can do packages.
So I do profiles, configuration profiles, packages, and scripts.
But you can't do a policy.
Okay.
Pro,
Is that a
we do
pro thing?
We do a policy where we push policies out.
Right.
Okay.
The MacBooks, you can't do that.
Yeah, so that's actually
Yeah.
one of the last features we were talking about, how we will implement that in Jamf School.
And you can't do Bootstrap. They told me you couldn't do Bootstrap
Okay,
on a Mac Pro,
Oh.
on the MacBook.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So this question kind of piggybacks to something that she said. So she said she's not using managed Apple IDs. This morning, I thought they said that when you use and you push schoolwork out to the students, that they use the iCloud of the managed Apple ID to do it. Or does Jamf School do it differently? Because that's only for schoolwork, okay.
Oh, for schoolwork, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for this
So
stuff, we
Classroom
don't
is
have to
managed
actually do
by
it.
the MDM. So everything for Classroom is set through Jamf School.
Okay. So we don't have the managed Apple ID to do it then, okay.
So one last question, I think.
Okay, I think it's a pretty simple one. I may have wanted to hear this, and you didn't actually say it, but was there a mention of a perpetual license?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time saver for us.
And-
Yep.
And I guess,
Perpetual
to me,
license.
that means it's a one-time cost.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So you buy it for, when you buy the devices, for instance, and you have the perpetual license on that, you pay it up front, and then it just sticks with the device, the number, the serial number.
And that's
basically.
true now that it's Jamf School, because online, the education pricing has it as a per-year cost.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, it is the device time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
We did. So we. So we've done a mix of perpetual licenses and annual licenses. So when we switched MDMs, we did perpetual for everything within a certain life, like a
4
certain
years or
age.
something.
And then for some of my older stuff, that's where I picked up my annual licenses.
Okay.
So they allow you that flexibility, because you don't want to buy a perpetual license for something you're going to replace in six months to a year.
Right.
So it was a value added for us, so.
Awesome. Thanks.
I I have to add something that one of my new colleagues just pointed out. We have no expiration date, so if you wanted to switch for Pro and you think, oh, I have to do that right now because of the subscription period, it doesn't matter because we are actually one team right now. So we'll figure it out on the back end, whatever is necessary, just find the solution that fits the best for your school. That's what we want as Jamf, and I hope that eases also a little bit. Just to wrap it up, sign up for a free trial. It's a 30-day free trial that we have for you guys. Just go to the website of Jamf and try it. You know, it's just as easy as it is. You just go a little bit around the environment and find out whether this is something for you guys. There's also a UX meeting tomorrow about the app request, and I wanted to point it out as well because it's Thursday the 14th at 9 a.m. in Skyway A. I just wanted to say that as well. And there might be flyers as well. Molly, are you here? Yep, might be flyers as well if you take some information, want to take some information. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.